Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this special transmission on the budget 2023-2024. I'm your host, Khalid. But all during the day, since the early afternoon, we've been highlighting different aspects of this budget. We'll be talking about the different programs that the government has introduced in the last year or so. How important is this budget? How important has been the different efforts that the government has made in the last year or so as far as the economic outlay of the government is concerned. You can just look at the different tables that we've made here. Agriculture growth 1.55%. You can see how there was an increase of 41% as far as cotton production is concerned, rice production 21.5%, livestock 3.78% increase, and you can also see wheat production 5.4% increase, and maize production 6.9% increase. There is a definite improvement as far as the economic situation is concerned. This said, all eyes are now on the budget 2023-24. It is a 14 trillion Pakistani rupees budget, the proposals for which are going to be announced by Mr. Mehtab Haider, our finance minister, shortly. A lot of people are looking forward to how the budget is going to be, what will be the outcomes of this budget. But as per the government and what our Prime Minister has been saying in the past, that this there will be a lot of revolutionary programs for the welfare of masses in this budget. Only time will tell what those programs will be. This said, let me introduce to you my guest who is here in the studios to discuss this very important budget that is going to be announced shortly. Dr. Shimail Daud, Economist, President of the Rawalpindi Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's in the studio. Thank you very much, Shimail, to have joined us. Long time, nevertheless, good to see you here in the studios, interacting with myself. We will discuss different aspects of it, but we have to go to talk to our correspondent who's in the parliament, Musharraf Zahoor. Assalamu alaikum. What are the latest updates? What's happening?
Well, sooner we are expecting Finance Minister Mehtab Haider to present the budget document, budget proposals before the Parliament. And as you know, you can see in my you can see in behind the lawmakers have started coming in the National Assembly Hall, as well as you can see the guest gallery. That is also the people are coming there. The guests are coming there to this to observe this budget laying off of the budget 2023-24. As you know, the finance minister will be laying down the budget documents, and we are expecting that the total outlay of the budget would be 14 trillion rupees, and as well as we can also expect various measures which the government will undertake in the social sector to uplift the social sector, as well as youth would also be the focus in this budget, as well as the other sectors which will we are expecting that the government will be giving relief and announcing packages for those sectors, include agriculture. And the government, as you know, yesterday the finance minister Mehtab Haider, as well as planning minister Hasnain in a press conference said that there will be 1.1 trillion rupees will be earmarked for the PSDP. That is indeed substantial amount, which will also generate jobs, they said, and that will create business activity across the country. Especially they spoke about flood hit areas where they have where the rehabilitation process is ongoing, and they were expecting that that will create some relief to the people and create jobs in those areas. Yes.
All right, Musharraf, the Prime Minister, as you very well know, has approved the incorporating of revolutionary programs in the budget 2023-2024 for the masses. That includes the Pakistan Endowment Fund for Education, Pakistan Prime Minister's Youth Program to extend small loans to the youth. There are certain sections of the society that the current government is laying a lot of emphasis on in this very budget. How important is that?
Well, a federal cabinet meeting is already underway and chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and they will be considering last-minute inclusions or details to be inculcated in this federal budget. And I would tell you here that the federal cabinet is also considering to provide relief to the salaried class, especially, and we are expecting they will be announcing some relief for them in this budget as well. And yesterday, Ishaq Dar has said that since the inflation, which he was telling to the reporters that we will be raising their salaries according to the inflation rate, which is 15 to 20%, and we will be giving people relief, some relief to the salaried class. As well as he said that the social sector is also our focus, and for that matter, a Benazir income support program, they would be earmarking more budget to this program to provide relief to the marginalized classes, and as well as they might be giving a package for to the agriculture sector. As you know, our 60% population is still in the lives in the villages, and 25% of our GDP the share is of agriculture. So they will be announcing, and that would also affect the social. This is the consideration of the government to uplift the social sector and to provide relief to the people. Yes.
Musharraf, the Prime Minister also chaired a meeting of the National Economic Council a couple of days back, and he said that the government is investing in education and health, in modern infrastructure and technology for the country's economic development. Do you feel these will be properly incorporated in this budget as well?
The Finance Minister Ishaq Dar particularly mentioned higher education sector, as well as Planning Minister Hassan Iqbal also dwelled on this in detail, and they said that this government has increased higher education budget to 60 billion rupees. That is substantial, and they are looking for to investing more in this, as they called it, knowledge-based economy. For that matter, they need to provide more facilities to the sector, and they are also earmarking considerable amount for laptops, and as well as uplifting the IT sector, which they particularly had mentioned that it would also benefit the youth and Pakistan, which has right now 2.5 billion rupees per annum share in 2.5 billion dollars of share from IT sector exports, and that will they have a plan to increase these IT exports, and for that matter they will be investing in this sector as well. So they are considering these measures indeed.
All right, Musharraf, thank you very much to have joined us. That was Musharraf Zahoor, our correspondent, joining us from the Parliament. The budget speech is about to begin shortly, and as you can see, it was live, so the people are slowly and steadily coming and gathering in order to listen to the budget speech. The proposals for the budget 2023-2024 at 14 trillion Pakistani rupee budget that is going to be proposed by Finance Minister Ishaq Dar. Let's come to our guest, Dr. Shimail Daud, who has been waiting patiently since quite some time. Shimail, let's talk about yesterday and the Pakistan Economic Survey 2022-2023. What, in your point of view, were the important key themes of that survey that were highlighted by the Finance Minister?
Well, I think it goes without saying, and we saw that also in the speech yesterday on the economic survey, that the performance, obviously we saw that the GDP had fallen considerably, slightly above zero, so 0.29. So, but the point was that despite all this, and you were also sharing these tables, that our agriculture, despite we had the floods, we had such losses to the crops, our crops have still done well. Being a resilient nation, we've done well. So I think that one of the key take homes was that despite the economy turning down, our exports had reduced a little bit, but agri has kind of like propped up the GDP. And I think that in future, if the Pakistan's economy is going to come out or grow manyfold, it's going to be the agri that is going to lead the way. because that is the core strength. It is the biggest employer, I think. Industrialization requires energy, and until we really overcome the energy mix where we are relying on imported very expensive LNG or fuel, I think we're still going to face this, especially in this geopolitical context, which is the war going on in Ukraine. But I think the other key take home from yesterday's economic survey was that despite having a very tough time for the government to stabilize macroeconomically, I think the good thing was that they were able to turn the deficits down, the fiscal deficit down, the current account deficit down, and in fact it became positive. So that is really, really good. Although there is a counter debate or on that it has impacted our exports, but I think we need to understand that right now it is not about the ideal situation is going to be about a balance. And what that means is we can go on increasing our exports, but we have to maintain a very close watch on our imports. And so as you mentioned, that the upcoming budget is going to hover around 3.5% in terms of the GDP. That is kind of like a sweet mix, where we do not want the GDP to grow really fast, because as soon as we go towards an expansion, I think we are relying more on the imported products. That eventually leads to furthering the problem of the balance of payment. So I think that is a good take home, that the government's hard steps definitely paid off. And I think we are going to see a similar, it's already, the echoes are there, that there's going to be a continuation where the compression is going to be maintained. We need to keep a very strong watch on non-essentials not being imported. We have to change our consumption patterns, and I think that we have to start looking for alternates. And I think already, as we've seen, that it's already in the news, and the Ministry of Commerce is looking for barter trade and other options, alternate fuels coming in from Russia, looking in from Central Asia, looking at the pipeline across from Iran, buying fuel from Iran, and looking at barter. I think these are measures. With the compression, maybe about 5% would be saving from there, another couple of percentage from here. So eventually, if we can go towards 10, 15% in terms of saving, that would go a long way and give us some breathing space. Having said that, what I think now is pretty evident for this government and the governments that come after the next elections is that these are huge challenges, and these are challenges beyond parties. This is a state-level existential, you can say, position where everyone really has to join hands, and we have to really
and be united on one front.
And this is no more about settling scores and blaming each other. This is about picking up the pieces and building the nation. It's about time. We are not a small nation, so we really need to start getting our act together. Otherwise, this is the time where whatever we missed, whatever the reason, whoever was responsible, we should stop looking in the past and we should start looking in the future, join hands and work together and start piecing together and building ourselves in reserves. And I must add here that, United States many years back, when they felt that they were dependent on foreign fuel, they decided that is a strategic importance initiative, and they decided they are going to have their reserves and they're going to decrease their dependence. That is a sort of approach we need to have. We are dependent on import of fuel. So we need to understand that this is not just a decision by finance or commerce. This is a strategic importance issue.
That is
we
so
really
true.
need to look at a security issue.
There are certain parties that need to look at that strategic issue as well and understand the importance of it all. We have also been joined by Dr. Ali Hasnain. He's the head of the economics department at LUMS. Thank you very much, Ali, to have joined us. Ali, I was talking to Dr. Shimail, and he was talking about picking up the pieces and decreasing the dependence. When you look at the current geo-economic situation and geopolitical situation that Shimail also referred to, how much of this economic outlook is going to shape the fiscal year 2024 for Pakistan, and how much should our budget be attuned to these changes as well?
So how much it is tuned, we will find out shortly. What I can say, though, is that there are two approaches to thinking about sort of reducing our resilience on the outside world, which is often cited as a potential sort of end that we are striving for. The resilience that we have to end is financial. It is not material. Most countries that develop in the world end up expanding the amount of trade that they're doing with the rest of the world. That means both imports and exports. If you look at the amount of import that we have as a percentage of GDP, you will find that it's actually not very far from other countries that are in a similar stage of development. In fact, we might be lower than them in many cases. The crucial issue that we have is in exports. And the reason that we don't have exports is that we have consistently over time protected our industries such that our new investors are more comfortable in investing in new businesses that try to cater to our own market and don't sort of try and take the risk of trying to cater to an international market. And so over time, and sort of coupled with that is the fact that we have not taxed the real estate sector as much as we should have. And so these two things combined with an approach towards foreign exchange that is always looking to restrict devaluation. Those three things are the reason why Pakistan is a $350 billion economy, but one that is constantly chasing after $1 or $2 billion or in tranches. So the agenda before us is very clear, at least within technical circles. The question is whether any government, and here I sort of make no distinction between the present government and the previous one, no government has shown the appetite yet to really, truly start to break through some of these long-standing issues that we've had. And so what I would be looking for in the budget is, I guess, the first thing is that if we step back from the budget for a second, we need to arrange for short-term financing that gives us the breathing space to start to undertake some of the reforms that I've just talked about. In order for us to do that, we need that short-term financing. And so for now, I think the important thing in the budget is to make it as aligned with the demands of our potential creditors, which includes both the IMF and our bilateral partners. So that we're creating the comfort that the next few tranches come in, and that gives us the breathing space, let's say in the next month or two, next year or two, in order to start undertaking these reforms slowly and carefully.
All right, Ali, stay online with us. We will go back to the studios and we'll return back to you. Shimail, there was some very interesting points that were highlighted by Ali, and he talked about, the financing and short-term financing and how that needs to be aligned with the current trends, and also it needs to be aligned with the creditors like the IMF and the international creditors. How can any government, I mean, for example, we know this coalition government has had a lot of challenges. We've had the floods, we've had a lot of political turmoil and many other issues that have hampered a normal economic process that this coalition government could have easily had, but could not because of these issues. How can we do all of this short-term financing, aligning with our creditors under the current circumstances that we are encountered with?
Actually, what Ali was alluding to, and I'll just build upon what he was saying, I think what has been missed is that the steps were never taken. Those steps, if they were taken, the subsequent governments can build upon them. And so what are those steps? What that means is that we have to make sure that whatever money we borrow is utilized in such a way that it increases the GDP, it increases the wealth, it increases the saving, and so forth and so on, and on which the government, and it increases our reserves at the end of the day, the savings. So those steps were not taken, and that requires reforms because we are wasteful in our expenditures. Our government size is huge, and we are funding loss-making enterprises, which are called the government or public sector enterprises. So these are the sorts of difficult decisions that many governments have been pushing forth and hoping that somebody else will pick it up. And then the next ones that come into office, they blame the previous ones, and then this keeps on getting delayed. These are the sorts of things that have been the result of circular debts, inefficiencies, and so forth and so on. So one is that. And as Ali was mentioning, the short-term financing means that yes, either we are part of the IMF, but going to them or to other short-term financing would give us the space. But again, if we take that fund and then we utilize it either to pass subsidy or somehow not use it efficiently, then we will be faced with another challenge to pay off those principals and the debt servicing by borrowing more. So we have to now understand that each and every dollar that we borrow is very expensive, and it has to be really looked into how it is expended, and it should bear results and dividends, which means reserves, which means anything that has to do the future stabilization of the economy, regardless that the government or the political government is in power or the next one is in office.
Shimail, the next question is for you and Ali both. I'll begin with you.
Yeah.
Ali referred to us being a $350 billion economy, but that we have to go to creditors such as the IMF for a couple of billion dollars.
Yes.
Let's come to the elephant in the room, the IMF.
Yeah.
Why is the IMF delaying things so much, despite the fact that Pakistan has provided it with most of the conditionalities, almost all of the conditionalities that it has asked for?
No doubt. I think this is a question which is being asked all across the board. But my understanding is, and Ali would probably add to his side, but my understanding is that there was a lot of change of leadership in the previous 2 years, for example. We had seen the government change as well as the people at the Ministry of Finance change.
What the Prime Minister had to say as far as the budget 2023-24 is concerned, there was a lot of emphasis on the agricultural sector. Yeah. How important is this sector for Pakistan for the coming year especially?
Omar, as we were also discussing prior to this announcement, I think agriculture will definitely help in the factoring in the 3.5% targeted GDP growth and beyond. It also means that it can also contribute to our exports, because we did see that some of the exports were reduced in terms of rice, and although wheat we do not, but other commodities as well. So I think that cotton obviously factors into our textiles. So because of the floods, that was also a loss. So hoping that with the government's budget, if within that proposal agriculture is going to be focused, there is going to be, I think mostly in the budget is usually access to subsidized or lower rates in terms of the fertilizers is there. One of the other opportunities, I don't know if it is included or not, is solarization of the water which is pumped through tube wells. I think that definitely helps in reducing the cost. Access to seeds, technical help, and access to water and modern technologies, I think are the way to go. Access to machinery or technical knowledge, obviously based on that. So these are the sorts of mechanisms and measures which will bear good results. And I must add that a large section of the agriculture growth is the livestock, and we lost a lot of livestock in the floods. People lost their animals in that, and it's again a very strong and resilient segment of the agriculture output, and I hope that will have a good rebound. And that will definitely factor into growth and support of the GDP, inshallah.
Shimail, coming to the creditors, the Prime Minister said that we will be completing the 9th review this month, and he sounded extremely optimistic. He talked about the conversation that he has had. What happens when during the month, as our Prime Minister has said, we get the 9th review, the 9th EFF? What happens afterwards? Should we go to other creditors? Can we maintain ourselves with this credit that the IMF will be giving us?
Well, I think that obviously the remaining part of the extended fund facility, one is that, and then obviously a lot of the creditors were looking at getting a green signal that once those funds are released, they would be ready to talk to the government, and that would help in opening up short-term finances, bilateral finances, and those creditors, and that will then help in the budget. I think probably the government has already factored in, and then we'll see that in part of the budget if it is mentioned in detail. But it definitely is going to be factored in, because you have to remember that in this financial year 23-24, we will be requiring to pay off 20 to 25 billion US dollars in terms of our existing debt. So we will be relying on IMF or other creditors for this matter.
Talking about the economic burdens that the common man has had, the Prime Minister emphasized on increasing the salaries of the salaried person, and he emphasized it on more than one occasion.
Yes.
Should we look forward to a considerable increase in the salaries?
Well, I think the government, and there's not enough fiscal space to really go beyond. We do see that the inflation has been huge, but I think what we can expect is at least 20% or so for the public sector employees or the higher side, and maybe about 30%. So somewhere between 20 and 30% is the figure that we might see in terms of increase. The minimum wage obviously will be jacked up. So this will definitely give some benefit, hoping that going forward it is expected that the inflation might start to settle. And we hope that this factored in a rise in terms of the income for the salaried class with a reduction in inflation will definitely help and give some breathing space to the public, which is already suffering a lot.
It is being said that the total debt servicing is going to consume around 7.5 trillion rupees. Do you feel that the federal government can bear the deficit of around 1,000 billion rupees? That is being forecast?
Well, as I said, that it is already understood that there will be required more borrowing in order for us to retire the older funds. So this is expected.
All right. This said, when you look at the different sectors that the current government has been emphasizing a lot on in the last couple of days, we talked about women, we talked about the youth, we talked about the IT sector that also the Prime Minister talked about when he addressed the cabinet. There's a lot of emphasis on the 5 E's if you look at it: the exports, Pakistan, environment, energy and infrastructure, equity and empowerment. Will this be an easy task to achieve? Is it an arduous task? As somebody who understands the business aspect from the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, how do you see that?
Well, you see, some of these are softer elements and they take a lot of time to really bear results. But I think in the short term, focusing on our manpower, skilled labor, because we do see a lot of people go abroad and most of them go towards the Middle East. I have seen a lot of reports and a lot of reports coming in where there is a need in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, and other countries that are the developed countries where they're looking for manpower, especially after COVID. So I think with a focus where quarterly we start training people on really fast pace, we can definitely enhance our skilled labor that is going abroad, because a lot of those visas are opening up and those governments are opening up. So I think our overseas ministries and the government can go a long way. And remember that in these difficult times, our expats, their funds are the ones that supported us through this thick and thin. So let's build upon this, because we have a human resource. Let's build upon it and let's make them work, not only grow their families, but also help us grow.
All right, Shimail, our discussion continues. It's time for a little news break. So, ladies and gentlemen, the whole transmission on the budget 2023-24 continues after this short break for the news of the hour, and then we'll be back.